Hi everyone, good to see you back. And before we start, I would like to add to Jeremy's question. And I'm sorry, Jeremy, I've completely forgotten what was the gist of your question, but I remembered after the session last time that I thought that adding these 2 points will complete my answer. So I'm not quite sure where to put the emphasis on, but you will obviously know when you read the answer here. So DK tells us that the success of all healing enterprise depends therefore on the ability of our group members to work at will and on demand under the influence of their soul. And so this is why it has taken so long for him to get this group of disciples, and now he's talking about the group of disciples that he brought together in the 1930s as an experiment in group healing. And as you know, that was a big flop. He had to disband the whole group and start again with only a few members. And so it was necessary for him to help all of these people to achieve a fuller expression of soul force through their personalities. So this is what we are doing. We are learning to express our souls through our personalities. And the second quote, which I thought was pertinent to your question, was that when we come to actively work together, it will be seen that some of us will be more predisposed to mental healing, others will function more easily along the astral or psychic healing, and others will bring about physical healing. It just means that this group should be able to work with a whole person or with groups as a whole, because as you know, all initiates are of the ageless wisdom are necessarily healers, which means that they transmit spiritual energy and they transmit it to one of the vehicles, through rather one of his vehicles, whichever is more liberated, so to speak. And now on to the next question. Do patients have to give their consent, and can we add the same patients in future group work again? So I'll answer the second one first because that's the easiest. Yes, we do use the same patients over and over because we feel that doing the healing on the sending the healing to them for a few minutes per month or once a fortnight is not enough. So we keep their names on the list and we keep helping their souls along. So do patients have to give their consent? So no, the patient doesn't necessarily have to give his consent for healing for various reasons. If you remember, this radiatory technique is all about sending the energy of love from soul to soul. Well, at the moment, because we are still learning, it is soul to personality. And soul healing produces the pouring of pure soul energy into and through the bodies of our patients. Now, in the case of radiatory healing, compared to magnetic healing, which we will look at a later stage, the soul of the patient is working in cooperation with us, the healers, which means that it's the soul which has then the major responsibility. Whereas in magnetic healing, it's the personality of the healer who is mostly responsible. And in radiatory healing, the patient, whether consciously or unconsciously, is working with the healer and is cooperating with them. The premise is that the patient's soul, the patient has some contact with his soul, whether he does it consciously or unconsciously, it doesn't matter. But it's the qualities of the soul that are pouring through his personality which is important. And so when the patient is conscious, so it's able to cooperate, yep, the work can be greatly helped. But it can go the other way too. And I'll explain that in a minute. So when the patient is unconscious, even that doesn't provide any hindrance, provided the healer can bring his soul and the patient's soul into relationship. Actually, DK says that in some cases, the unconsciousness of the patient can be a help for too earnest, emphatic, and impatient help can offset the work, the quiet, silent, and controlled work by the healer. 2, we follow DK's advice. Never mention to anyone the names of those that you are seeking to help. And that includes, to me, that includes also the patient. Because as he said earlier on, as I said here, too earnest, emphatic, or impatient help from the patient can offset the work. And a clue of how hereditary healing works is mentioned in passing in the New Testament, where it says that the shadow of Peter passing by healed. His aura was of such a nature that it had a beneficent effect wherever and whenever it touched and contacted those in his environment. And the control of the Christ also over his aura was such that he knew when virtue had gone out of him. He knew, therefore, that healing energies had poured through one of his centers to either a needy person or to a group of persons. So that's basically the way that we are aiming to work. And silence and complete and unbroken as to what we are doing is a vital factor, because the utterance of words in connection with this subtle and confidential work, or even discussion of the work with a fellow disciple, can shatter the delicate thought form which we are attempting to build. It can render the work of weeks abortive. And I'll explain to you why DK says that. At least this is the way I understand it. We, as healers, we are trying to build a healing thought form, right? And the ray 5, which is the ray of concrete knowledge, is preeminently the substance of the 5th mental plane. And therefore the nature of that energy, of that vibration, is gaseous, and therefore it's volatile, it's easily dispersed. So this is why too strong a personality thought or desire, which is a lower vibration, coming from the patient, can dissipate or disperse that delicate thought form of love that the healers are trying to build. And that's another reason for complete silence during the healing session. I know that this question will be coming up, so I'm answering here now so that it just flows from what we've just explained earlier on. Because the work of the healer during this process is one of intense quiescence. The process is that of soul potency upon the force. In other words, the energy of love on the vibrations, the lower vibrations of anxiety or fear or whatever the negative vibration, the lower vibration is, or further down on the actual physical disease. So the work is silent work. So therefore no loss of power at any time, as there is always a loss of power through the spoken word or affirmation. So therefore not only are we silent during the healing, but we are also silent about the work that we do and the people that we send healing to as well, because speech and discussion tend to deflect and dissipate force. And so let's dive straight in to our topic for today, healing and the big picture. Let's see healing from a very large scale, as large as we possibly can, so that we can understand what's going on in the world today. And there are many things that are happening behind the scene, and we will see this in a minute. So let's quickly recap. Esoteric healing or soul healing must be an objective for us, which is the pouring into and through the mechanism of the patient of pure soul energy. That's the way the Christ work, and that's the objective that we have in front of us. That's the aim that we are working towards. The Christ, the world healer, is the forerunner of the Aquarian age. And by the way, thank you, Joe, for sending us this. There is a very short introduction to that concept of the Christ by Michael Robbins, and it can be viewed on YouTube. If you're not clear on who Maitreya is and the Christ and what he's here for. Thank you, Joe, for that. So he's the forerunner of the Aquarian age. Let's explore that idea a little bit further. In June 1945, at the time of the full moon of Gemini, which was so significant a day in the spiritual experience of the Christ, he definitely and consciously took over his duties and responsibilities as the world teacher and leader and healer during the Aquarian solar cycle. Christ is the first of the great world teachers to cover two zodiacal cycles, the Piscean and the Aquarian. So there are two cycles connected with the signs of the zodiac. One, which is the greater cycle, which is connected with the zodiacal round of about 25,000 years, and two, the lesser cycle, which are connected with each of the signs which come in and out of manifestation every 2,500 years. So let's look at these two cycles so that we can understand what they are all about. First, the greater cycle. It has to do with the sweep of the sun, meaning the solar system, us included, around the greater zodiac, and it takes 250,000 years to do a complete round of the zodiac. And the zodiac, as you know, is a group of constellations that's present behind the imaginary path which the sun, the moon, and the planets traverse across the sky as seen from our planet Earth. Now, each astrological age covers approximately 25,000 years. And the lesser cycle, the cycle which are connected with each of the signs that come in and out of manifestation every 2,500 years, has got to do with the precession of the earth. Now, if I can take you back to your childhood, when you perhaps played with a spinning top, you would remember how the spinning top, as it slows down, wobbles. Well, that's exactly what the earth does, except that the earth is not slowing down, but it wobbles on its axis. At the moment, it is pointing to Polaris, the north. And as the earth wobbles, it leans towards each of the 12 constellations over a regular period of 25,800 years, which means that it takes 25,800 years to do a complete round like that on its axis. So which means that every 2,160 years approximately, the Earth wobble leans towards one of the 12 constellations. So at the moment, the Earth is moving away from leaning towards the constellation Pisces to leaning towards the constellation Aquarius. And it just so happens that we are entering a greater round of the zodiac, and this coincides with a lesser zodiac because Aquarius governs both the greater cycle of 25,000 years that the sun is moving into, and is also the sign into which it's moving for a period of 2,300 years. So these two cycles of Aquarius are coinciding. And this, DK tells us, is a most amazing happening and full of import in our planetary history. And it's a coincidence of which our planetary Logos is well aware and of which he's making full and intelligent use. The second thing that's happening as well of these two cycles of Aquarius is that the seventh ray cycle is coming into power. The seventh ray has been in manifestation since 1675 and is gathering momentum. And it will remain in incarnation for the next 3,000 years or so. Now, the seventh ray cycle has got nothing to do with Aquarius. That's the cycle of the ray itself. And as you know, the seventh ray is, par excellence, the medium of relationship. It is the ray which harmonizes the inner and the outer. It brings the two aspects of spirit and matter together in harmony. It relates soul and form, and relates soul and personality. So if we compare the work of the seven ray and esoteric healing, we will see that they are both performing the same function. Soul healing is the pouring of pure soul energy into and through the bodies of our patients, therefore bringing soul energy in contact with the forces of the personality. Soul healing relates life and form, soul and its personality and its vehicles. So you see that both esoteric healing and the seventh ray are basically performing the same function. Now, the combination of the sun in Aquarius and the ray 7 cycle, this combination, which has happened 6 times during the period of the 5th root race, is to bring about illumination, establishment of order upon the earth. And that combination is being established right now. And as you know, the 7th ray rules the physical plane. And therefore, when the 7th ray is active and when the sun is in Aquarius, Aquarius transmits ray 5, which is the ray of concretization. So then a manifestation takes place during these planetary crises, and hopefully humanity will learn or will realize that there is only one love, one heart, one vision, only one people, and that will bring peace on earth. The third thing which is happening is that humanity is undergoing its first initiation, which is the birth of the Christ consciousness. It is the very first time that the heart center of humanity on a large scale is awakening. So we stand now on the verge of a momentous event, which is the appearance of the 5th kingdom of souls on earth. As a result of the planned activity of the new group of world servers working in collaboration with hierarchy and under the guidance of the Christ himself, and under the watchful eye of the planetary Logos. Because this is a momentous event in planetary history, and it is a period of immense cyclic importance because our Logos is achieving his purpose. So vast numbers of men will take the first step towards the unfolding of that Christ consciousness, and thus will pass through the first initiation, which is the expansion of humanity's consciousness. Now, Ray 7 governs the first initiation, which is the birth. It's called the birth. And it marks the very first stage of the soul's control of the physical plane. Or another way of looking at it, it marks the freedom of the soul from the grip of the physical body and its appetites, and the third aspect of form. Now, individualization, which occurred 18 million years ago, was the very first human crisis, and it was a major initiation for the Logos. Individualization is the great moment in which man has passed out of the animal kingdom into the human kingdom. So it's really the moment of conception, if we can compare it, if we can use this analogy. So it is an initiation into self-conscious existence. So when individualization took place during the Lemurian or the third root race, and the human family was born or was conceived, it signified a major initiation for our heavenly men, our planetary Logos. And the same thing is happening today. There is a pouring in of spiritual energy, vitalizing, transforming, and rendering humanity creative. And that initiatory work becomes possible, and a new and higher kingdom is appearing on earth, which is the birth of the fifth kingdom of souls. So the first initiation, therefore, if we can use the same analogy, is or corresponds to the birth. It is an initiation into spiritual existence. So it is of importance that you realize that something new is happening today. Dike tells us we are witnessing the emergence of a new kingdom, the fifth kingdom of souls in nature. Just like 18 million years ago, it was a momentous event in humanity. Well, this is also a momentous event in the life of the planetary Logos. The fifth kingdom of souls is being born, is being precipitated on earth, and will be composed of those who are becoming group conscious and who can work in group formation. As you know, on his own plane, the soul is group conscious. Now, humanity participating in the preparatory test for initiation, because humanity is the world disciple, and we are part of it. We are part of humanity. And because we are born now, therefore great is our privilege to be taking part in this momentous event. Great is your privilege to be taking part in this momentous event. Maybe we need to take a few seconds to take in this momentous event which is happening right here, right now. And forget not, Dike tells us that 11 is the number of the initiate. And today it's the 11th house, which is governed by Aquarius, which is so dominant. And forget not that Aquarius, the 11th sign, is the sign of universal relationships, universal interplay, and universal or group consciousness. So we are playing a huge part in this planetary event. And it is also a cycle in which our planetary Logos, having taken initiation and thus affecting his entire planetary life, now Dike tells us that the world will not be the same. In 200, 300 years, the world will not be the same at all. Thank God for that. Because the planetary Logos has established certain extra planetary relationships, which of course we don't understand, but which will create a situation in which our planet will become a sacred planet. But this process, as it unfolds and develops, will have a potent, subjective, and deeply spiritual effect upon every kingdom in nature and the kingdom of the super kingdoms as well. But we are told that although the earth is not a sacred planet now, but on the inner plane and subjectively it is considered as a sacred planet. But the effects of that transition from non-sacred to sacred will not demonstrate in the near future. It will take centuries for this transition or the effect of that transition to demonstrate themselves fully and to manifest. So hence, the seventh ray cycle, which will bring in the manifestation of this new world order, the order where souls will manifest on earth, where there will be goodwill, there will be will to good on earth, manifested on our planet. But you and I, we won't see it, or at least not just yet. We will in our next few lives. We will be able to witness this, but not now. Now, hovering today within the aura of our planet are great spiritual forces and entities awaiting the opportunity to participate in the work of world redemption, readjustment, reconstruction. And we know two of them already, the avatar of synthesis and the spirit of peace. DK has told us that, and I'm sure that there are others that we are not aware of. But these are the extraplanetary entities that are ready to help humanity make its first step into the kingdom of souls, but also establishing a new world order on earth, an order of peace and harmony amongst nations and goodwill amongst everyone. Our Logos decided to create our planet Earth for strictly redemptive purposes. Now, it's not just his, but it's his will aligned with that of the Solar Logos. So it's the plan of the Solar Logos as well as it is the purpose of our planetary Logos. And this whole theme of redemption and salvation of matter, which underlies all initiatory processes, is hidden in the karmic responsibilities of Sanat Kumara. So there's a lot resting on our planetary Logos shoulders. But he does it with joy, and he will not leave this planet until the last weary pilgrim has made his way home. Now that's commitment for you. So it was to redeem substance and its form, its redeeming matter, that the planetary Logos came into manifestation. And the entire hierarchy, with its great leader, the Christ, is or must be regarded as the hierarchy of redeemers, skilled in the science of redemption, the world saviors. And that, my friends, includes us, the healing group, the seed group. Apart from the seventh ray cycle, the two cycles of Aquarius, there's also the emphasis on ray 5. Let's see. Aquarius, which is an air and a mental sign, transmits ray 5, the ray of science and concrete knowledge, which numerically resonates with the fifth mental plane, as I explained earlier on when I was answering about one of our questions. The fifth ray, higher expression, is the science of the soul, or esoteric psychology, while its modern expression, or lower expression rather, is our educational system and mental science, which means expanding our consciousness. What really means is It's the concretization of the ideas of the soul on earth, basically. The fifth ray cycle has been in manifestation since 1775, and it too is gathering momentum. As we saw earlier, the fifth mental plane is where the fifth ray Lord influences the most. Therefore, illuminating the whole of the mental plane. And that means the spiritual triad, or the abstract and the higher mind on the first subplane, the egoic lotus on the first, second, and the third plane of the fifth mental plane, as well as the lower mind or the personality or the mental unit located on the fourth subplane of the fifth mental plane. So all these three aspects of the mind are being stimulated by the fifth ray Lord. And it resonates as well into every fifth subplane. So therefore, on the fifth subplane of the mental plane, it's the concretizing, materializing subplane. And that's why DK tells us that the battleground for the disciple is the mental plane. And this is why we have to be mentally polarized and have our astral body under control, or at least under some control. Because the disciple has to carry forward our mental focus and through the right use of the mind, achieve a higher realization, which is the intuition. Buddhi on the fourth Buddhic plane. Now, the goal for the mental body is to be the transmitter of the thoughts, of the light, and the love of the soul. And the mental body needs to be one-pointed and focused to become receptive to the higher impress from the soul, higher impress of its ideas, of its knowledge, and its light, but above all, its love. Let's have a look at the time. No, we've got time. Oh, just bear with me a minute. Let me see.
I think you've got time to go into the next section, the first 3 slides.
Yeah, yes. Okay, let's do that, shall we? All right. So let's have a look at the rulers of Aquarius, because these are very important. And it's very significant in terms of healing. I'm getting there, folks. I'm getting there. Uranus, ray 7, is the exoteric or the personality ruler of Aquarius. And Jupiter, transmitting ray 2, is the soul ruler or the esoteric ruler of Aquarius. Uranus transmits ray 7. It is a synthetic energy on the physical plane which brings together spirit and matter, or soul and personality, through the intelligent use of the mind. And that we just saw that earlier on when I was explaining the ray 7 quality. So ray 7 is the ray of synthesis on the physical plane. The influence of Uranus transmitting ray 7 is therefore enhanced by the cycle of ray 7 flowing into our solar system at the moment. And Uranus affects the soul life far more than it does the personality life. It affects the crown chakra, the head chakra, which is the seat of the soul. This is the point of entrance of the soul in the human mechanism. And Jupiter is the transmitter of ray 2. It's the sole ruler of Aquarius. Jupiter is the second ray agent of the Christ spirit. It transmits ray 2 and therefore fuses heart and mind. It is the outgoing expression of love. It stimulates the soul aspect in our planetary life, in all forms, and even more so in those who respond to the energy of love. I think we might stop here, Joe. What do you think?
Yes, I think this would be a good place because we do want people to be able to ask questions.
Yes.
And we found out you really come through when someone asks a question. Even in this session, we can expect more next, as we saw with Jerry's question.
Yeah.
If you raise your hand, I'm going to just remind everyone that this will be posted on YouTube and posted on Makara. And while we're doing the questions, I'm going to upload the PDF of these slides into the handout section if you want to grab those now. And the PDF does not have the answers to the questions at the beginning of the session, but we should be good. All right, I'm going to stop the recording